All right, guys. So before we do anything else today, we are going to start by thinking about some objects that keep popping up in our novels. So right now, what I want you to do is come up with 3 to 5 objects from your novel, ones that you think are pretty important. Let me give you an example. So when we read Two Kinds by Amy Tan, you gotta think back a couple weeks there, right? So we read Two Kinds and Rice and Rose Bowl Blues together. So in Two Kinds by Amy Tan, there were a couple of objects that were pretty important to the story. So let's just draw a couple to get started, okay? So the first object, and it's a person, but that's an object too, would be Shirley Temple. She was really important. The mother wanted her to be just like Shirley Temple, right? Another one that was pretty important was the piano, right? Her mother wanted her to learn how to play the piano, and she wanted her to practice all of the time. So the piano was pretty important, okay? And then thinking over kind of some important things that popped up, there was that sheet music, or she talked about the 2 songs in the story, right? And those 2 songs were kind of opposing pieces, and we could say those were probably pretty important objects from the story, okay? So in your groups, come up with 3 to 5 objects from your novel. So now that you have your 3 objects, we can really start the work of today. So today, we're going to be thinking about symbolism within our novels. So in order to get started, we have to think back to that mini lesson that we did, or that workshop that we did on symbolism. So when we did that workshop, we talked about how, kind of what a symbol is. And we decided that a symbol is an object that represents an idea, or stands for something bigger than itself, right? Or stands for something other than what it actually is. Great. So, but then when we were doing that lesson, I kind of thought that you guys struggled a little bit to figure out kind of what a symbol really represents. So what I wanted to do is show you a way to kind of identify what the symbol is actually about. So what we're going to do now is we're going to practice this with our short story, Two Kinds by Amy Tan, okay? So to do that, to figure out what a symbol means, you need to realize that how the characters feel or react to the object is likely going to hint you at what it represents. So how the character feels or reacts to the object is likely going to tell you what it represents. So in order to figure that out, we really need to sit down and think about how all the characters felt about it. So if I think back to some of these symbols from Two Kinds, the characters had a lot of feelings. I'm going to focus on the piano, right? And so the main character, remember, she wasn't named. She had some feelings, and then her mother had some feelings. So the main character, how about the piano? So the main character didn't like the piano. The main character kind of thought the piano was a waste of her time, right? So maybe the main character thought the piano was silly. But then the mother, on the other hand, had some other really different feelings, right? The mother liked the piano, right? We could say she liked the piano. And the mother thought that the piano was important, right? She thought that if she learned how to play the piano, became a prodigy at the piano, her whole life would be successful, right? So the characters had a lot of different feelings. So now the trick to this is to think about, what do we think the piano represents? And if you could trade out the object for that feeling, then that's likely what the symbol represents. So let me show you how this works. So let's take each time that we say the piano, let's think about what it might represent. So I'm going to underline these and we'll try it out. So I would think, so that whole story was, Two Kinds was really about parental expectations, right? And so I think we could say that the piano might kind of represent parental expectations. So if the symbol of the piano, or the piano is a symbol for parental expectations, so if we've done this correctly, if we switch out the word piano with parental expectations, it should check out, and then we could say pretty comfortably that the piano is a symbol for parental expectations. So let's give it a try. The main character didn't like parental expectations. I think that checks out, right? The character really didn't like that her mother was putting all these expectations on her, right? The next one, the main character thought parental expectations were silly. I think that's true. She thought her mom wanted her to be a child prodigy, and she had no interest. She really didn't care about them, right? The mother, on the other hand, liked parental expectations. I think we can say that pretty comfortably, right? She thought they were important. She thought it was important that she have these high parental expectations for her daughter. So far this is working, right? Then the mother thought that the piano was important. Or the mother thought that the parental expectations were important. I definitely think that checks out. She thought that if she just raised or kept with her parental expectations, that she would be successful. So in this case, I think we can say pretty comfortably that the piano is a symbol for parental expectations. So in your groups, you're now going to pick one of your objects to do this work. So pick an object that you already talked about, right, from your novel, and try to write these statements, right? So write 3 statements about how different characters feel about the object. And then from there, try to determine what you think it might be a symbol for. So what might the object be a symbol for? So go ahead and try that out in your groups.